Hello. It looks like our current Ozeki might be taking a walk pretty soon. But what does it take for an Ozeki run? Sulfro!
Throw the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Welcome back to the Dohyo here on MrJWags channel. Yes, we are still here in Ivins, Utah, getting ready for the first preview of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory here at the Tuacahn Amphitheater. I will be playing Willy Wonka. If any of you are interested in coming out and seeing the show, I will be putting all that down below in the read more. So if you're on the American Southwest, do check us out. It is going to be a chocktacular, amazing time. But yes, this episode was the episode that I promised in the last wrap-up episode. It seems that we are in a position in Sumo where our top ranks are not quite fulfilling the contract that we expect from our Yokozuna and Ozeki. Of course, Terunofuji is coming off an extended Kyujo period, and he should be coming back for May. We're very excited about that. But our sole Ozeki, Takakeisho, is in Kadaban, which means if he gets a losing record in this tournament, we will not have enough Ozeki. Yee. Okay, so we seem to have a lot of opinions online as to what constitutes an Ozeki run. And this is getting very, very important because, by my math, we have 4 people who might be able to make Ozeki after the very next tournament. That would be our returning champion, Kiribayama, Daieisho, Wakamoto Haru, and Hoshoryu. So, of course, me being the chart-based sumo reference-tician that I am, I decided I had to dive back into the sumo reference and figure out what actually constitutes a modern Ozeki run. And of course, I am nowhere near the first person to tackle this topic online. Most recently and best that I can think of, Tachiai.org has updated their A Brief History of Ozeki Runs article. I'm going to link that below. Do check that out if you want a longer, written-out explanation of what we're going through. But you will find that I use a slightly different methodology, and of course, this is a little bit more recent than those articles, so do stick around. But for those of you who hate reading, or just those of you who want a video to be able to send to someone who you're arguing with online, this is that video, and we are going to be going through some hard stats. But before we start, I have some parameters that I just want to make everyone aware of, so before people go and say, you didn't remember this guy from the 1800s. Well, let me explain. First of all, my stats are only going to be as accurate as Sumo Reference. I am basing all of the information I get from this video on Sumo Reference. So if you have not checked out Sumo Reference, they're an amazing database. I trust them implicitly, as I believe should you. If any of you have a reason for me not to trust Sumo Reference, why have you been watching this long and not telling me? Second parameter, I'm only going to be paying attention to Ozeki promotions since the beginning of what I call modern sumo, the 6 basho a year, 15-day basho system, which started in 1958. That is where Tachiai.org is starting theirs for modern sumo, and that is also where I will start. I will also be running a second parallel dataset starting in 1987, which was the year Konishiki got promoted, and he was the first foreign Ozeki. And I personally believe that that constitutes another leap, another era in sumo that we must sort of take differently from the 50s to the 80s. Parameter number 3, this is only an analysis of sumo history that has already happened. If something happens that is unprecedented, that can in fact still happen. I am just telling you what has happened. I cannot tell you what might possibly happen. And fourth parameter, you are going to notice that I mentioned that there are 66 total Ozeki promotions in the modern era, but there are only 64 Ozeki. That is because we had 2 separate occasions where we had a wrestler make Ozeki, fall back down, and then make Ozeki again the hard way. Kaiketsu in 1975 and 1977, and of course, Terunofuji in 2015, and then again in 2021. Alright, so for this video, them's the rules. Cool? Alright, so the first piece of sumo chatter I see a little bit of controversy about. The idea that we need at least 2 Ozeki on the Banzuke at all times. This is mostly true. While in fact we do not need 2 Ozeki, we do need 2 wrestlers ranked Ozeki or Yokozuna. You may have noticed in the past two tournaments that Terunofuji has been listed as Yokozuna Ozeki. Don't worry, he has not been just sort of partially demoted. It's just we've only had one Ozeki, so we need at least another Ozeki or Yokozuna to take Yokozuna Ozeki to balance out the Banzage. If we were in a situation where we did not have two Ozeki plus Yokozuna, we would in fact need to sort of field promote someone up to that, and we may be getting there very soon. The second piece of Ozeki wisdom I have seen bandied about the internet: you need to get 33 wins over 3 consecutive tournaments, and that is a big no. In fact, if we look back from the earlier parts of modern sumo, we will see that we have had people promoted with as few as 28 wins. From 1958 until the current date, April 2023, we did in fact have 20 Ozeki promotions that did not meet the 33 over 3 standard. 9 of them got 32, 4 of them got 31, 5 of them only had 30 wins, and 2 of them had 28. That was Kitabayama in 1961 and Kitanofuji in 1966. And also you can count Tamano Umi, then called Tamanoshima. He had 30 wins, but 2 of them were Fusen, so I count him as sort of a 28. But if we jump ahead to 1987 and the 32 Ozeki promotions we've had since the beginning of foreigners taking over the top ranks of sumo, you will notice we've only had 5 wrestlers who did not get the 33 wins and still got promoted. And all of them had 32. That's right. After 1987, not a single wrestler who got below the 32 over 3 mark was promoted to Ozeki. So yes, I will go ahead and count that as a rule. Bam! For modern sumo, everything since 1987, if you do not get 32 wins over 3, you're not getting promoted. Now the third fact I have seen bandied about the internet is that all 3 basho in an Ozeki run must be in the Sanyaku. This is false. Looking back to 1958, there were 7 Ozeki runs that started in the Maegashira ranks. But if we look back to 1987, there were only 2 that started in the Maegashira ranks. That would be Tochinoshin in 2018, and most recent Yokozuna Terunofuji, but this was the 2015 version. Now, you can't just be any Maegashira. You have to sort of be up in the joy. The lowest ranked wrestler to start a 3 basho Ozeki run was Maegashira 4 in the olden days from 1958 to 87. In the most recent, 87 to now, the lowest rank was Tochinoshin at Maegashira 3 West. I don't think that one rank is enough to really put like a hard and fast rule that only Maegashira 3 and above, but it does seem to indicate that if you're not up in the joy, Maegashira 4 at least, you're not starting an Ozeki run. So let's call that the rule. You have to start your Ozeki run at Maegashira 4 at least. But going from the 2nd and 3rd basho, yes, in fact, according to all recent modern history, you do have to be in the Sanyaku to finish your Ozeki run with your 2nd and 3rd basho. And adding on to that, in modern sumo, there have not been any Rikishi promoted directly from Komusubi to Ozeki. That's right, since 1958, every single Ozeki promotion came from Sekiwake in the 3rd tournament. The most recent Komusubi to Ozeki jump was 1938 with Mai Dayama. So way before the time period we're talking about, so I'm willing to call that a rule. You have to finish your Ozeki run at Sekiwake. The 4th piece of Ozeki run wisdom I keep seeing is that you cannot have any losing records in your Ozeki run. This one, mostly true. If we go back to 1958, you will find 2 Ozeki runs that started with a 7 and 8. Wakahaguro back in the 50s, and Kaiketsu, his first Ozeki run back in 74. But the further we get, the criteria seems to be tightening a little bit. And so, yeah, since 1987, there have been no losing records in any of the Ozeki runs. So I'm willing to call that one a rule as well. Bam! If you have a losing record in your Ozeki run, even if it's just a 7 and 8, you're out. And the last sort of Ozeki run rule I've seen bandied about the internet is that you must finish your Ozeki run with 10 plus wins, or it doesn't count. This one, true. This one seems to be very, very true. I have, in fact, not seen an Ozeki run in the modern era at all that did not end with at least a 10 and 5. So, it appears as though we do have somewhat of a consistent framework for what constitutes a post-1987 Ozeki promotion. Number 1, 32 wins over 3. Number 2, you have to start at Maegashira 4 or above for your first tournament, at least Komusubi for your second tournament, and you have to be Sekiwake for that last tournament in your Ozeki run. 3, you can have no losing records. And number 4, your final basho at Sekiwake must be at least a 10-5. So, if you fulfill all these things, you're totally going to be an Ozeki, guaranteed, right? No. Well, it's not really a no. It's usually just a not quite yet. Put them back in the oven, they're not quite done. Of the 16 wrestlers we have had since 1958 and the 12 since 1987, all of them who have fulfilled the rules we have just set out, all of them who have established that even if they didn't get Ozeki at that moment, they all eventually got to Ozeki, except for one, Akenoshima, back in 1994 to 1995. He got to that point, he fulfilled all the rules, but did not ever get promoted up to Ozeki. He was the only one. And if you're being a real hard ass about the rules, you can say, well, he started at Maegashira 4, and since 1987, we haven't had one above that. And that's true. The rules for Ozeki promotions seem to have gotten a bit harder since the 1950s. Now, why is that? I think part of it has become with the idea that we had some foreign wrestlers who were sort of knocking at the door of the higher ranks, and they just wanted to make sure that everyone who was making those ranks was definitely someone who could handle it. Well, in 1987, we not only had our first foreign Ozeki, Konishiki, we also had a Yokozuna named Futa Haguro. Those of you who love sumo history probably already know the story of Futa Haguro. He is the only Ozeki to never win a championship. He ended up being forced out of sumo at the beginning of 1988 for alleged violence against other stable members and his Okami-san, his stable master's wife. So, if these are true, good riddance. But I can imagine that the Sumo Council was a little bit loath to promote anyone without a definite promotion case from there on. Now, as I of course mentioned in my wrap-up episode for the March Basho, go check it out, it's a good one. I do mention that we have 4 wrestlers, Kidibayama, Daisho, Hoshodyu, and Wakamoto Hadu. I think they are all going to be up at Sekiwake next tournament, and given a best-case scenario, any one of them could be promoted up to Ozeki, which I'm very, very excited about. So hit me up in the comments, who do you think is going to be our next Ozeki? I mean, we're going to find out anyway, I just want to see where y'all are thinking. Now, some of you are probably wondering, well, if 32 isn't the mark and 33 isn't the mark, well, then what's the mark that definitely gets 35? If you get 35 wins over 3 basho starting at Maegashira 4 or above, you are an Ozeki. So if any of these 4 Ozeki hopefuls get to 35, I would be willing to bet anything that they will be promoted to Ozeki after the next tournament. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been able to shine a little bit of light on what the hard facts have been on the recent Ozeki promotions. Do let me know, do you think we should go back to a slightly easier, more lenient Ozeki promotion like we seem to be doing before the 1987 line? Do you think it should be harder? Do you think we're sort of right about where we want to be? And which one of your favorites do you think will make Ozeki first? Hit me up in the comments. And hopefully once 1 or 2 of these guys make it up to Ozeki, I'll be redoing this episode, but again, with a focus on future Yokozuna runs. So let me know if you guys want me to do that in the comments. Everyone, of course, stay tuned for the channel. We will be doing a preview for the May Basho, and of course there will be all of our lovely quick strikes, and you're not going to want to miss any of those. So everyone, stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.